All right, welcome back to our daily read aloud. Because of Mr. Terupt. All right, last time we read, Angie, what was happening?
So, Alexia was being rude, and she said maybe Danielle should be in charge of the food, and she said the more she eats, the more she's getting fatter. And then Mr. Terupt had a talk with her, and then the chapter we read was, it was about Jessica, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Terupt out Alexia, and Josiah said she got suspended or something.
That was a prediction. Okay, you're right. So we know Alexia was really mean to Danielle, which is nothing new, right? She's always mean. But this time, Mr. Terupt heard her. Okay, he took her out in the hall and talked to her. He came back in without her, and then who'd he talk to next? Because this is important. We had a chat about it. Cadence? It was the whole group, right? And what did he have to say to them? Was he happy with them? Disappointed? Zoe?
Disappointed because they didn't stick up for themselves.
Yep, he was disappointed. Even though they weren't the ones being mean, did they do anything about the person being mean?
No.
No, which is just about as bad, right? If you see something bad happening and you do nothing to fix it, you're part of the problem. Angie?
But I'm pretty sure they did want to stick up for Danielle because Jessica and Anna are her friends. But you know how Alexia can get? She won't stop. She'll just keep on bullying.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like the more people tell her to stop, the more hurt she gets.
True. All right, so I think you're right. I think they probably did want to stick up for her, but can it be really hard sometimes to stand up to someone doing that? I'm an adult. It's still hard, okay? I've had to say things to family and neighbors when they say words and things I don't like to hear, and I almost get shaky before I say it, but it's important to say it, right? I don't want people saying things that aren't right in front of me. Okay. So we've heard from a few of the group members what happened that day. Now we're about to hear from Luke's perspective. Hayden?
Like the R word, you don't like that.
That's true. Hope I never have to hear it again. All right. We are ready to read about Luke. Our bathroom is positioned directly across the hall from our classroom. Who cares, right? I'd never thought anything of it until the day I felt trapped out there. I saw the shakedown, $1, all compliments of Peter. I was in the classroom working on my holiday center. All my materials were spread out on the floor, and I was busy calculating the proper dimensions for my game board. Mr. Terupt was on the other side of the room, checking in with a different group. I didn't notice Peter. I stretched out on my belly and worked on math. The soles of my sneaks pointed up, a great invitation for mess around Peter. I never felt a thing. He's definitely sneaky. I sometimes wonder what's the likelihood, $1, Peter will grow up to be a world-famous thief. I had no clue anything was even happening until I heard the giggling, and Peter said, "Hey, Luke, what kind of sneaks are those? Elmer's?" I popped my head up. "What are you talking about?" "Better be careful. If you try to go anywhere in those, you might get stuck." I looked back at my feet. Mess around Peter had struck. The bottoms of my sneakers were completely covered in Elmer's glue. "You jerk," I said without any real authority. Truth is, I didn't really care. It wasn't worth getting upset over. Besides, I'm sort of used to Peter's antics. I thought they were always harmless. I untied my shoes and placed them next to me, bottoms up of course, until I finished my math. Peter's victory celebration was cut short by my easy solution. Maybe I don't get upset with Peter because I know I'll always outwit him. This drives him nuts, and I love it. Once I finished my calculations, I grabbed my sneakers and headed to the bathroom. Mr. Terupt was still busy with a different group, so he didn't see any of Peter's shenanigans or me leaving the classroom. I held my shoes under the sink and washed off the glue. Then I wiped the soles dry with a paper towel and put my sneakers back on. I pushed the bathroom door open and quickly jumped back inside. I was trapped. Mr. Terupt was having a conference with someone out in the hall. I pushed the door open just a crack to see who it was. "You've done it your way," he said. Mr. Terupt had his back to me. He was leaning forward, talking to the person against the wall. "Now you'll do it my way." He straightened up and folded his arms. He meant business, and that was when I saw who it was. Black and purple streaks covered her cheeks, a combination of her makeup and tears. Alexia, crying. I had never seen or heard of Alexia crying before. "I like you, Lexi. I want some of your classmates to like you too. I'm trying to help. I want you to be friendlier, $1. I will not tolerate your meanness anymore. Wow, was this really going to work? Go into the bathroom and wash your face. Come back when you're ready. Is there anything you want to say before I go back in? Alexia stormed past Mr. Terupt without looking at him and without saying a word. Mr. Terupt let out a big sigh and shook his head. Then he walked back into the classroom. I wonder what he was thinking. I decided not to say anything about my sneakers. It didn't seem important. Mr. Terupt had more serious matters on his plate, like discipline, $1. I waited a few minutes before following Mr. Terupt into the classroom. I didn't want it to seem obvious that I'd been eavesdropping, but I was eager to tell somebody about what I had just seen. That's why I think I walked into the classroom a little rushed and wasn't really paying attention. Even if I had been, it probably would have happened. I'd barely walked through the door before I stepped in a puddle of water. My feet went up and my arms flew out. I flilled like an ostrich trying to catch its balance. Somehow I managed to stay upright after sliding across the linoleum floor to the carpet. Mr. Terupt was having a serious conversation with Jessica, Danielle, Jeffrey, and Anna, so he didn't see any of this. All right, so what was he talking to them about? Abby?
What just happened with Alexia?
Right. But Peter, Ben, Nick, and some of the other guys rolled around in hysterics. I knew what they had done, or should I say what Peter had done. He likes to put his thumb over the opening of the drinking fountain, $1, and push the button. It's another one of his infamous stunts. This one makes the water shoot all the way to the door. That was how the puddle miraculously appeared on the floor. Whether Peter meant to have the water on the floor, or if it just ended up there after he sprayed someone else, I don't know. Either way, it doesn't matter. I didn't have time to do anything about it, because someone else came through the door just after me. She must have been making her rounds, going from class to class just to visit for a few minutes. And today was her unlucky day. All right, Mrs. Williams, she's the principal. Mrs. Williams took one step into our classroom and hit the water. I lost my spot. Oh, I felt sorry for her. She was wearing a navy blue suit, a jacket, and a skirt with high heels. She wasn't able to keep her balance. Her foot shot way out to the side as soon as it touched the puddle. I thought she was going to do a split. And then her other foot touched the water and slid forward. Mrs. Williams fell backward with her arms grabbing empty air. She landed smack on her back, right in the water, with her legs stuck in the air. That was when I saw my principal's underwear. I couldn't believe it. I knew I shouldn't stare, but I couldn't look away. We all gawked at her multicolored flower underwear. And that's not the best of it, or the worst of it, if you're Mrs. Williams. Her underwear was discombobulated. It was unbelievable, so that means it's like not even centered correctly. It's all over the place. I'll never forget it. Not as long as I live. I swear it. It was the day I saw my principal's underwear. Mr. Terupt rushed over to help her. The rest of us fought to keep from laughing. It was our principal, after all. Even Peter wasn't snickering. He actually looked nervous. Mrs. Williams, are you okay? Mr. Terupt said, helping her to her feet. Peter, get some towels to wipe this water up. Why did he pick Peter? Because he knew Peter's antics led to the water being on the floor. I'm sure it was his way of letting Peter know he knew. I'm okay, Mrs. Williams said, brushing herself off and smoothing out her clothes. Sorry for the interruption. She turned and left. How embarrassing. As soon as the door closed behind her, the laughter and whispers started. Clearly, this can't happen again, Mr. Terupt said. We're lucky Mrs. Williams didn't get hurt, or that someone else didn't either. I expect we won't have water pooled on the floor like that again. Mr. Terupt looked directly at Peter after saying this. Yep, he knew. He shook his head, then walked over to his desk. I thought for sure this event would be unequaled, $1, by any other for the rest of the year. Little did I know that something much bigger was coming our way. All right, we're ready for Alexia, so now we'll finally figure out her perspective of this whole event. Alexia. Teach was like, Alexia, I think it's time for you to follow me. I went into the hall with him. He closed the door behind us. Teachers had done this stuff with me before. I was like, no big deal. I didn't even give Teach a chance. They're being so mean to me, I blurted out. They won't let me do anything. Jessica thinks like she's the boss. But this is where Teach was different again. Wrong, he said. Stop. But He put both hands up. "Just stop," he said. I was quiet. He looked right at me. "You're lying. And I don't like liars," he said. "You're being mean. And I don't like mean people." I felt real tears coming. I didn't want to cry. Not for real. I squeezed my teeth together and scrunched my eyes. I held my purse hard with both hands. "You're acting like the meanest girl I've ever seen," he said. I couldn't help it. The tears came. I was really upset. I looked down at the floor. "I'm not being unreasonable, Lexi." I was like, "Yes, you are," but I didn't say anything. "I'm telling you the truth, and sometimes the truth can hurt." What does he mean by that? Sometimes the truth can hurt. Noah?
Like, it's not really mean, like the truth can punch you and it'll hurt. Like the truth will make you sad and you'll realize I need to stop doing this.
Yeah, it kind of like hurts your heart, right? It can hurt you to realize, am I actually being a mean person? It's kind of hard to take that all in. Angie?
I have a feeling when Lexi said that the teachers were being mean to me.
Well, she said the kids were being mean to her.
Yeah, and if the teacher would have been rude to her, I bet she would have felt like the kids felt and they would have been bullied.
Yeah, good point. All right, so sometimes the truth can hurt. I kept my head down. I pulled a tissue from my purse and wiped my eyes. He was being a bully. All right, now we all know that that's not being a bully, okay? Why is he not being a bully? Cadence?
He didn't repeat it.
He's not being repeated. Is he even being mean, Madeline?
Oh, no, but that's what kids think. Like, when a parent's correcting them, they go, "You're being mean."
Yeah, it's not mean when you need guidance and correction, okay? And we can all see from our perspective, Alexia needs a lot of guidance and direction. Okay, so he's not being mean. Why do you think she thinks he's being a bully? Hayden?
My sister is this way, except with my mom.
Okay, so why do you think Alexia thinks Mr. Trep's being a bully?
It's because she doesn't know what really bullying is. Because,
Do you think she doesn't know she's a bully?
Yeah, and my sister had a softball practice once, and my sister was like, "So are you gonna ask me how my softball practice was?" And then my mom was like, "Yeah, it was good, right?" And my sister was like, "Well, I already, yeah." And then she stopped talking.
Okay, real quick, Angie.
And he's not being a bully because he said he doesn't like mean people.
Right, he's correcting bad behavior. Okay. I know you're not mean deep down inside, Teach went on, so stop acting like you are. Miss Kelsey has told me some amazing things about you in her room. He didn't get it. Nobody was going to be my friend. I know, because that's how it was before. Kids made fun of me because of my clothes, because of how I talked. Leopard Lexi and Lexi Like, they called me. And then one day in 3rd grade, I attacked back. I yelled at some girl like Mom and Dad yelled at each other. And after that, no one wanted to be friends with her. It didn't matter that what I said was a lie. They ditched her and became my friends instead. Just like that, I became the leader. All of a sudden, I was getting all kinds of attention, unlike at home. Mom was around, but usually too upset over Dad, because he was never around to worry about me. And then last year, she hit her limit and threw Dad out of the house. Mom told me then, "Alexia, don't let people push you around like your father did to us. You take charge and fight back." So there's no way I'm going back to being nice. Nobody's going to make fun of me again. I don't remember anything else Mr. Terupt said. I was too mad to listen. I hate you, Mr. Terupt. All right, one more chapter. Jeffrey. Did it help? I asked Jessica one day in our Ramadan group. We were just doing some research on the computer. What? She asked. Did Talon help like Ida B? I think it helped a little, she said. I stared at the computer. I'm listening, she said. You won't tell anyone, I said. I won't tell, she said. Promise. 'Cause nobody knows any of this. I just moved here last year halfway through the school year and nobody knows anything about me. I won't tell, she said again. I'm not sure why I believed her, but for the first time ever, I told someone my secret. My brother's name was Michael. The football cards were his. He was older than me. He had Down syndrome and leukemia and was real sick, So my parents had me in order to save him. I could feel Jessica looking at me after telling her that last part, but I kept staring at the computer. They gave Michael my stem cells, special cells that can turn into anything else in your body, hoping that they would become what Michael needed. It worked for a while, but then he got sick again. He was in and out of the hospital a lot, so that's how I learned about kids with special needs. I stopped. The computer was quiet. Jessica hadn't pushed anything on the keyboard. She was listening. Then the summer before 4th grade, I gave my bone marrow to Michael. It was his last chance. Everything else had failed. So bone marrow, that is what is inside your bones. Your bones make bone marrow that becomes blood in your body. So if you have leukemia, it's a sickness in your bone marrow inside your bones. So you have to get transplants or someone else has to donate some of their bone marrow in order for you to become healthy again. And it's a really risky thing and it doesn't always work. Chloe?
I read a book about that. I forgot.
About leukemia?
Bone marrow.
Okay. Angie, real quick.
This was his last chance.
So let's read on and see what happens. All right. So it was his last chance. Everything else had failed. I stopped again. My throat was tightening around the lump in it. It was going to be hard to tell the rest. What happened? Jessica said. It worked, but not fast enough. Michael got sick before his body could fight the cancer off. I didn't save him. The screensaver bounced around. I stared at it. Then Jessica said something no one had ever said to me before. It's not your fault, Jeffrey. I got up and walked to the bathroom. I had to. All right. Now, first of all, that was a pretty good response for her to say that. Why do you think it was important for her to tell him it's not his fault? Zoe?
Because,
Last your words. Noah?
Because he might think that it didn't work because of him. He didn't get it to him fast enough.
Yeah.
So you might think his brother's death was because of him.
Yeah, so he might be carrying around a lot of guilt over that. Liam?
Who is this?
This is Jeffrey's brother was Michael. He had Down syndrome and leukemia, and the treatments didn't work and he passed away.
Is he the person who's, being mean?
Jeffrey's the one that doesn't care about anything. He hates school. Okay? So, now we kind of understand why Jeffrey's the way he is, right? He doesn't like anybody. He doesn't want to make friends. He doesn't want anyone to know about him, which now, does that kind of make sense? Yeah, it'd be really hard to tell everybody that story over and over.
So I have a feeling before his brother's death, he was nice and happy like a little boy. But until that day where he couldn't save him, I have a feeling he just felt so guilty that darkness started to come in his body.
Yeah, sometimes we can go through things that can almost feel like a darkness over our body, right? It's kind of hard. So hopefully Jeffrey can start to feel better. I think it'll help if he has more friends he can talk to about it. Madeline?
It's like trolls, because Branch, his grandma died, so he lost his color. And so he's really mad and grumpy.
Yeah, that's kind of a good way to picture it. When someone loses something, it's really hard. Cadence?
Because last year my dad died because he had this cancer, and he was also doing bad things.
So you can kind of understand how that hurts, right? Feels bad. Hayden, last comment.
I feel like Jeffrey's thinking that it's his fault I think that Jeffrey is feeling that it's his fault that he killed his brother.
I think so too. All right, so at this point in the book, raise your hand if you think people are complicated. Okay, that's kind of the point of the book. Do you think it's just the characters in our story? Do you think it's all the people that walk around our school building that are complicated? It's probably everybody, right? Okay. All right. Thank you guys for reading. We'll see you soon.